Welcome to our live training session. We're going to be taking a look at how to calibrate and tune a Honda K24 engine using a Motec M150 engine management system. Let's jump into some details about our vehicle. We're going to find the engine is built as a K24 engine. We have stock K20A2 camshafts. We have upgraded valve train on the cylinder head. We have forged pistons and rods on the bottom end. They're 12.5:1 compression with an upgraded Type S oil pump along with an upgraded 50-degree VTC gear on our engine. So on the intake side of things, we find it's a Skunk 2 Ultra Street intake manifold paired with a Bosch 82mm drive-by-wire throttle body. We also have a 3.5-inch cold air custom intake. On the exhaust side of things, we have a race header paired with a 2 3/8-inch exhaust. On our fuel system side of things, we have RDX 410cc injectors along with an upgraded in-tank pump. Now, in addition to this, we have a flex fuel sensor and we have a 0 to 100 PSI fuel pressure sensor along with a Motec LTC CAN wideband module. We're going to be tuning this on pump gas as well as ethanol, doing a flex fuel based tune. We talked about a lot of details here. Let's jump into our beginning training tutorial to build our base file and get started with our tuning process.
Welcome to our live training session here with our Honda EP3 Civic. Now, we just went over all of the details and modifications that have been done to our vehicle here for our demonstration. Let's jump into our Motec software so we can begin creating our base file to start our live training process. Now, this tutorial, we're going to be focusing on setting up our inputs and outputs. We're going to be doing this in the offline mode. The next training module, we'll continue building our base file, setting up all of our 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional tables specific for our engine. The third tutorial will actually get into testing all the inputs and outputs, doing any more setup and configuration for things like drive-by-wire, since we have drive-by-wire fitted to our engine here. And then we'll go through, get the engine to fire up and run and do the idle control, and then we'll start to do the driving, full throttle tuning, and any of the other feature or functions that we want to implement here with the Motec. So we have a lot of things to cover, and there's going to be a lot of training modules here looking at properly calibrating our engine. Let's first jump in here and let's take a look at what file I'm going to be starting off with. This is a supplied base file from Motec right from the USB stick for my firmware package. Taking a look in our M1 software, we're going to find up here at the top, I have a GPRP package for my M150 Motec, and we're going to find that this is the Motec supplied base file that's found on the USB stick for this particular Motec that I'm working with here. So the GPRP M150. That's going to say generic 4-cylinder map-based efficiency migration base V9. So this is the base file that we're going to start off with and modifying. That's probably going to be different for your vehicle. So if you're getting a supplied base file from a third party for a firmware package, you'll be starting off with that. Start off with whatever the base file you have is going to match your firmware package. So this is what I'm going to be utilizing for this training module. Again, your firmware package and your file may vary a little bit. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is quickly go in and save the firmware package as a different name so I don't go in and overwrite this particular firmware package from Motec and start to change that if I ever want to go back in and use it as a basis for another file they want to create. I'm going to go up here and go to File, and then we're going to do Save As. This is going to allow me to save this as a vehicle ID. We can see right here the vehicle ID. Looks like they have something named Motec. We're going to say Honda EP3 and K24 and click OK. Now we're going to find the comment in here. That's going to what displays up here at the top. This is going to show generic 4-cylinder map-based efficiency migration base V9. In this comment section, I'm going to say Honda K24 EP3 chassis. Notes, you could put some different notes in here. We could say K24 engine, 12.5:1 compression, stock cams, flex fuel, RDX 410cc injectors, just putting some of the details in here in case I want to refer to this at another point in time. I know exactly what the file is associated with here. We could put the fuel pump, so drop in fuel pump, and yeah, that should be good. Just give me some details on what I have going on with this particular file and vehicle. Let's click OK here, and we're going to find that that's changed up here, but we do want to go here and actually export this file out, and we're going to go ahead and export it. And I'm going to actually save this in our Motec M1 course. So I'm going to go and provide this as a file that you can reference. So if you want to go into a K-Series engine, you'll have all this information that you can at least look at and source. You may be able to extract to an export function from something like the volumetric efficiency table or the VVT table, just so it cuts down on your setup and configuration work for your file if you're doing a Honda K-Series engine. So I'm going to create a new folder in our M1 course folder that I provide with the training course. We're going to call this K24 engine example, and we'll say actually K24 engine drive-by-wire example. Now I'm saving it a specific folder here for the project to export to. When we're going to be doing another tutorial with this vehicle using individual throttle bodies. So we're going to see how to calibrate those both, just kind of standard naturally aspirated state and then individual throttle bodies, because the process is quite different here. So let's go ahead and go in here and we're going to click save. So we have that saved now. So I've saved over top of the original file name, and we're going to find that now any changes that we go here and actually make in the video, we can go to file and then save, and that'll go save it to that file in that folder location. Makes this a little bit easier. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is go through and configure setting up all the inputs and outputs. So first thing, we're in our fuel tuning table. This isn't going to be something we look at in this training module. Next training module, we're going to look at how to set up our volumetric efficiency table here, the target lambda table, startup fueling, transient tuning. We'll have to talk about some of that, ignition timing, idle tuning, et cetera, as we're finding all of our kind of features and functions within the programming configuration. That's what we're going to deal with in the next training module. So we're going to just dive into setting up all the basic sensor setup and configuration details, inputs and outputs, so that we have everything essentially accounted for in the base map, and then we can set up the tables specific for the vehicle we're trying to control. Because what we're finding here is, looking at our fuel tuning, we're not going to be getting up into this high inlet manifold pressure in our VE table. We're naturally aspirated. We're not going to get much above 100 kPa for the engine we're working with here. So obviously we don't want to have all of the table populated above that. It's simply going to be not even usable. So we need to configure that. Again, we're going to be looking and talking about that in the next training module. Let's skip from our tuning window right here, and let's go into our setup. Now, I do want to mention real quickly, in the main training course, you probably have already gone through a lot of the training tutorials in the main training course. This is the supplied course layouts. So all the different page layouts that we have here, this can all be imported, and I've actually talked about that in tutorial number 6 in the main training course. That's how to import the EPA specific course layouts. So you'll be able to follow along with exactly what I'm showing on screen if you're going through and trying to configure and set up your Motec. So that's where, coming into this tutorial, where we have all of these options under my workbooks. You can actually import all that in. Again, I walk you through that couple-minute tutorial. Definitely follow along with that if you don't have these already brought into your software. So let's jump in here from the tuning into the setup area here. And this is going to be where we actually go through and spend the majority of time in this training module, setting and configuring everything up so we account for all of the details that are really critically important. So if we don't have an input and output set up correctly, things aren't going to work right. And we want to make sure that things are calibrated correctly. So let's go through here under our basic setup and start to take a look at a few things. So the first thing, we're going to find alternate fuel mode. We actually want to set this on flex fuel. We're going to be doing a flex fuel tune on this, and I have a flex fuel sensor actually wired into the Motec. So we actually want to go ahead and configure this as flex fuel. If you're not doing a flex fuel based tune, said it's not in use, there is a secondary fuel option, and that's going to be if you have a secondary set of injectors and you're going to be having a different fuel sprayed through the secondary set of injectors. It's a little bit of a unique situation. We're not going to be even worrying about that. So we're either going to probably choose flex fuel if you have going to be doing a flex fuel tune with a flex fuel sensor, or you're going to put not in use if you don't want to do any ethanol tuning. You're just sticking with a single fuel type. Or if you're going to be just doing ethanol tuning and you don't have a flex fuel sensor, you won't choose the flex fuel option. Now, alternate fuel properties calibration. We can see right now it's set on manual. What we actually want to do here is set it to ethanol 1.0. This is going to say it's going to interpolate between pure ethanol, and then when we set up our fuel property type here for the primary type of fuel, this will be set for petrol. And we're going to get to that in here in a little bit. So engine run threshold, this is going to say 300 RPM is pretty normal, 350 is fine. Anything below 300, we're going to be using the cranking fuel, cranking spark, cranking airflow. Anything above 300 RPM, or whatever you place here for the value, that'll start to use the normal post-start fueling or main volumetric efficiency table fueling, main spark time table, ignition timing, or idle control feedback. So this is the threshold that's going to kick it from cranking conditions and kick it into those other tables. 3 to 350 is fine for pretty much any engine. We have engine displacement here. Now this needs to be accurate because we have the volumetric efficiency model and to express our airflow.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.